Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP, and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil A. Colonna, and this is Nashville. Parking. It can be a real source of frustration for a lot of downtown drivers. And hey, maybe you're in your car right now. Maybe you're thinking, 1, where can I even find a street parking spot? 2, how long can I park there? 3, do I have enough change to keep the meter fed? Get number 3 wrong, and you'll be facing a ticket. And starting this month, the city will be enforcing parking 24 hours a day in certain downtown areas. So, where are these 24/7 parking zones? Why did the city decide to take this step now? That's coming up later this hour. But first, earlier this week, Mayor John Cooper announced that he will not be seeking re-election in August. That means the mayoral race is now wide open. We know 3 people who are already in. Metro Council member at large Sharon Hurt, District 19 Council member Freddie O'Connell, and Nashville Economic Development and Affordable Housing veteran Matt Wiltshire. But speculation has been wild. Joining us now to look at how the mayoral race is shaping up is Steve Cavendish, editor of the Nashville Banner. Steve, thanks for being here. Welcome back to the show.
Always good to be here.
Good to have you. So, all right, Mayor Cooper is not running again. What should we take away from this announcement?
Being mayor is hard.
Yeah.
Mayor Cooper had a line in his remarks that I thought was really interesting. He said, I basically had 2 terms worth of stuff in one term. 2020 alone, where you had COVID, you had a tornado, you had a bombing at the end of the year. I mean, that's a term's worth of problems. Mm-hmm. And, COVID lasting several years in addition to whatever it is they were trying to do. He came in trying to fix the city's finances. There's, in the back half of his term, he's come up with a plan for the east bank of the Cumberland River. In addition to, there's stadium proposals at both the racetrack and downtown. It's a lot, and I don't think he was interested in running. Mm-hmm. If you look at his campaign finance disclosure, his campaign spent more than he brought in the last half of the year. He only raised like $130,000. And as a sitting mayor, I think that's an indication that, he didn't love fundraising, and that's something that you have to do. And I think he was just a lot more interested in being mayor and governing. And you have to be, committed to campaigning. And it's tough, and it showed in his remarks and in his voice, and I think he's just done. And I get it.
You get the sense that he's tired, huh?
A little bit. I mean, like I said, he's had a lot on his plate, and they're trying to get a lot done. I wrote about this for the Banner this week. When I had a couple of other reporters were talking to him, and I asked him, I was like, "Are you running for re-election?" And he and his staff have said this. The minute that I start running for re-election, everything becomes about politics. Mm. And he knew that he had this East Bank proposal that he was pushing really hard and still is, and he has this Titan Stadium proposal. All of that requires a lot of bandwidth. And I think that he just decided, I've done a lot. I've done what I set out to do, and I'm gonna declare a victory and go home.
What do polling numbers tell us that might have had something to do with this decision?
Well, I think so. The mayor had a poll out in January. I have not seen it. I've heard kind of anecdotally that his approval numbers were decent. I heard, and his approval numbers were decent last year. In the Vanderbilt poll last year, he had like 56, 57% approval. The interesting thing to me is that the right track, wrong track numbers for the city, the way people feel about the direction of Nashville, has consistently been underwater. It's been more than half the city has said that we're on the wrong track. Mm. And it doesn't matter kind of like what your approval numbers are if there's this undercurrent of we're not going the right way, then it makes it hard for any candidate. And he was going to have a fight. He's got he has 3 people that have already jumped into the race that are considered credible candidates. This is not like, this is not like some people kind of stunt campaigning against the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, he just looked up and said, I'm done here.
Now, yesterday, News Channel 5 published a story about a retirement community, the Heritage at Brentwood, that is getting sued by one of its residents who say he was deceived into paying nearly $700,000 for what he thought was real estate, but was actually just an entrance fee to move in. John Cooper is the founder and majority owner. Did this have anything to do with his announcement?
I don't think so. I mean, this is a fairly standard fairly standard contract dispute. The way the Heritage is structured, you pay in, and that money pays for, like, the interest that's generated off of that pays for certain things. I know some people that are in the Heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Full disclosure, my mother-in-law is in the Heritage.
Okay. Does she like it?
Sure. I mean,
yeah.
I think that she would. Yes. I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay.
But I think when I was reading through the Channel 5 story, it's a good story. Everybody should take a look at it. Jennifer Cross did a nice job with it. But it feels like a fairly standard contract dispute. It doesn't feel like this is some sort of like mass deception that's going to blow back on the mayor.
Now, we talked about this a little bit. We already know the 3 candidates vying for the job: Council members Sharon Hurt and Freddie O'Connell, and former city official Matt Wiltshire. How are their campaigns looking at this point?
Good. So Hurt just launched. Her disclosure shows that she raised about $5,000, which is not nothing. I mean, it is barely even starting. She has a kickoff event on February the 16th at the Pyramids up on Clarksville Highway. I think she's looking at that as being sort of like the big sort of move. Even though she's been having conversations around town. I talked to all the candidates here in the last 24 hours, and all of them have said that they have received a ton of interest since Mayor Cooper stepped out. I think both O'Connell and Wilshire are going to post pretty big fundraising numbers. And Freddie said that he had a large number of kind of small donors that have kind of come his way. Mm-hmm. And small donors, I think, are typically a measure of excitement and enthusiasm. You have to have big donors because you have to be able to fund a campaign apparatus. But in terms of, ask the Bernie Sanders people at the national level, ask the Trump people at the national level, those small donors are a real measure of energy. And Freddie said they've gotten a lot. Wilshire said that I think they're going to take in like maybe $100,000 this week and put him over. So he'll be up over $1 million raised so far. And to this point, that's the most any candidate has raised at this point in the cycle in the city's history.
Wow, that's big time. So, I also hear that text messages have been flying around in every direction since John Cooper made this announcement. Who else is thinking about getting into the race? So
I think they're kind of broadly sort of 2 groups. So there's let's start with like the not saying no people.
Okay.
So Bob Mendez, who's the council at large, is looking at it. He had said that he wasn't going to run, and is now kind of exploring it. Mendez has some advantages over other people in that he has a lot of name ID and a lot of kind of broad support, so he can probably wait a little longer to get in. Odessa Kelly, the same way. She ran for the 7th district against Mark Green. She's been kind of cryptically tweeting here and not really saying much else, but I think she might be interested. Megan Barry, same way. Her statement to me and to other people in the press was did not say no.
Okay.
Didn't say yes, but it didn't say no either. So I think there's kind of that category, and then I think there's roughly 5 others that are kind of really seriously looking at this. Vivian Wilhoit, who's the Register of Deeds, who's the property assessor, is very seriously looking at it. She, like Sharon Hurt, has some advantages in that African-American female candidate who's won countywide office before. She would be a really interesting candidate. Jim Gingrich, who's the former COO of Alliance Bernstein, I think that he's been looking at this for a while. I think he's going to get in pretty soon. Just from conversations that I've had with him, and that I know his interest level is really high. Bob Freeman, his dad, Bill Freeman, they own the FW Publishing. They own The Scene and some other things, in addition to like a lot of housing and apartment complexes, and that's kind of their main business. He's a state rep. He's looking at it really hard. He had said that he wasn't going to do it, and then I think this has made him kind of reconsider. Jeff Yarbrough's in a similar camp, although I think probably Freeman would get in before Yarbrough. And then Charles Robert Bone, who ran in 2015 and raised a lot of money and has done a lot of stuff around the city. Pretty prominent attorney in town. You know, he sold his firm last year. Bone McAllister, which was one of the kind of the bigger firms in town, merged with a big national firm called Spencer Fane. And so I don't think he's looking for stuff to do. He's got a lot on his plate. He's on the convention center board and does a ton of other stuff. But he texted me and said that he's within a couple of weeks he's going to figure out. He said he thinks he could put together the people and money to do it.
Now, you mentioned that Matt Wilshire has $1 million, close to $1 million already. How much is it going to cost for this race to run for mayor effectively in Nashville?
I talked to a bunch of people about this. Most people think that it's a $2.5 to $3 million race, and so that's interesting for a lot of reasons. One, it just kind of shows what the scale of these campaigns is. I mean, Matt raising $1 million is fascinating to me because that means he's now raised more than the Democrat did who ran for governor statewide, and we have like 160 days to the election, so he's going to have to raise a lot more. This $2.5 to $3 million number means that a lot of people are going to have to, if you get in, you're going to have to write a check. This is the John Cooper strategy in 2019. Cooper never raised much money until the runoff, and the runoff, all the money flipped and went in and supported him. But he raised some money. I think he raised like $300,000 that summer, $360,000. But he wrote $2 million worth of loans to his own campaign in order to win that race. You're going to have because of the time, the expense, the number of candidates who are going to be trying to do things like expand their name ID, build an apparatus, build a ground game that can effectively target and win voters. Freddie O'Connell is interesting, for instance, because he's not going to be able to he can't write that check. But he said, he told me, he said, we're going to raise $1 million by June 30. That makes him a competitive candidate. Does that mean he can spend the most money? No, it means he has to be very diligent about what he does. It means he can't get into an air war, but he can definitely be competitive. And if you know who your voters are and you're concentrated on getting them and turning them to the polls in a big race where you've got 6 or 7 candidates, it's not about getting half the electorate. It's about getting 20%. Can you get your people there? Well, if you can, maybe you don't have to have $3 million to do it.
Steve Cavendish is the editor of the Nashville Banner. Steve, thanks for breaking this down for us. Really appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We have to take a short break. When we come back, we'll look at changes to our city's parking policies and learn what it means for one local commuter. How do you feel about our city's parking? Like, how do you really feel? Tweet us at This Is Nashville. We'll be right back.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for prep and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil A. Colonna. And this is Nashville. This month, the city is rolling out new parking policies for downtown. For one, parking will be enforced 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in certain sectors. Other areas will see paid street parking from 6 a.m. to midnight. What other changes are coming? How does this plan help some of the city's infrastructure challenges? And how does this affect people who have to park downtown to make ends meet? My next guest is one such person. Abbey Moss works 2 jobs downtown, and she joins us now. Abby, thanks for being here. Welcome to This is Nashville.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Really happy to have you. So, you work 2 jobs downtown. What's it like for you to park?
Stressful. But honestly, having the 2 jobs has made me able to actually make ends meet and not have a stressful situation, just getting downtown to Nashville. I started working at a hotel downtown, and with that company being bigger, they were able to offer parking at a pretty affordable price for their employees, and that worked out well. And I received another job down the street at a fine dining restaurant, and that job did not have any parking available. So the natural course of things was to, take the job that was offering more financial stability and continue on with life. But I realized that when I applied for parking in different areas, there was not any available or guaranteed, and it was upwards of $150 just to be able to have insured safe parking.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was able to keep my hotel job 1 day a week. So I'd have a clopen situation, which is basically closing at one job and opening the next morning. So I would be on the same street it was just ridiculous to have to come in and be like, wow, I was literally here 6 hours ago. But yeah, it's a safe opportunity, to have safe parking, but it's insane that I can't afford to not work that job.
So you work 1 shift a week just for parking?
Yes. It's crazy, I know. But it's reduced a lot of stress, I will say. But I don't think that it should have to be that way by any means. But
I'm curious. What do your coworkers do for parking?
They Uber.
Wow. Which can get expensive.
Yes, absolutely. Especially if you're working, the late shift, and when everyone's partying out on the weekends, the Uber fares are up to $40, $50. So you have to wait around until that dies to be able to get home. But most of them come very early, look for street parking. So I imagine this is going to affect them a lot.
What about public transportation? Taking that to work, is that an option available for you?
Maybe. I'm not quite sure. I know there is a bus that takes me to my neck of the woods, but it would be a 20-minute walk at night to be able to get off the bus and to my home. So that would definitely be an option, but it's scary to be alone at night, walking that distance, I'm a fraidy cat, so I don't know if I would survive well with that.
I understand. So now that we have a sense of Abby's dilemma, I'd like to bring in my next guests to help explain the city's plan. Angie Henderson is the Metro Council member for District 34 and sits on the Traffic and Parking Commission. And Meshach Adams is a Walk Bike Nashville Outreach Assistant and also sits on the Traffic and Parking Commission. I want to thank you both for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Councilmember Henderson, what are some of the big changes coming to downtown parking?
Well, I think the 24/7 enforcement is the biggest, most immediate change. And I certainly have empathy for Abby's situation for sure. And I think, we as a city are behind on managing our curb as far as an asset. It's a place for people to park. It's a place where we might have bike lanes, where a business might have a valet stand. And so it is kind of a complicated spatial geometry, right? And so getting to a place where, we have kind of smart parking, we've called it, and we've, through the commission and through council, we've passed a bill to bring that into effect. And so that's kind of what you're starting to see is that, whether through your phone or, some other things that actually kind of make things easier for citizens and guests in the city to engage all the options available to them.
Why now?
I'd say now just because we've been behind. This was first discussed in the Barry administration. Nashville has had a lot of leadership volatility and just the change in administrations. And so this has been under discussion for a long time, whether through, walk and bike strategic plan, transportation plans. We've known we needed to get to a place where we were managing our curb better. And so, it's just kind of, we're just catching up now.
Mm-hmm. So Misak, parking meters are going to be 24/7 enforcement in certain parts of downtown. What's the timeline here? What are we looking at?
So from my understanding, the timeline would be right now in February, the preliminary. So you're looking at like folks right now, if you are illegally parked, you would get like a warning. And then like around March is when it would be like a hard enforcement. Okay.
So in March is when things get serious.
Mm-hmm.
What does a hard enforcement mean?
It means a few things. For one of these things is a thing called like a barnacle. So if you're caught like parking, a parking enforcement person would put like a shield over your windshield, and then they would call you. You'd have to call a number to get them to take it off.
So no more placing the boot on one of the tires. This goes on your windshield.
Yeah.
Wow. Ain't people gonna get towed at all?
No. And Director Alarcon was kind of like adamant about not trying to tow folks because then you're dealing with the towing companies, but like trying to resolve the issue right then and there.
Okay.
So that's the reason why you have the barnacle.
So this is all coming in March. All right. If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Lekalona. We're talking this hour about the new changes in our city's public parking policy. Tweet us your thoughts. I know you have them at This Is Nashville. Now, Mishak, you grew up in Nashville, right?
Right.
How has parking changed in the time that you've been driving?
I went to high school downtown, so I went to Hume Fogg. So it was a lot of free parking, no rules, and kind of similar to Abbey. I had a job downtown where I worked in the arena, and it was like a weird parking situation because sometimes they gave me a sticker for a lot, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes I'd get a ticket, sometimes I wouldn't. It was one of those things where it really didn't make any sense, and this policy kind of puts everything in alignment. Puts everything into alignment. So,
have you ever received a parking ticket?
Oh yes. Oh, definitely gotten a parking ticket, and now I paid it. But it's a change for the city, but it's also one of those things where we're making folks notice now, and we just need to kind of adapt.
Okay, now Councilmember Henderson, you and Mishak both sit on the parking and the Traffic and Parking Commission. What studies did the commission use for developing this new policy?
So in progress right now is a study called Connect Downtown. But prior to that, under the leadership, I guess, of Faye DeMassimo, Director Alarcon's predecessor, there was a lot of engagement around a variety of pilots, kind of best practice. And so, we're looking at peer cities, how they manage the curb, cities that have kind of a 24/7 downtown economy. And I think it can be difficult for folks to keep up with, as of this time on this day, it's free, but it's not free then, but this 1 hour, right? So we're kind of just taking a path to being kind of more uniform. And, Mishak spoke to it that in February, it's about educating, informing, these changes are going to happen, warnings, in an educational space so that people can start to plan ahead for their patterns. And then I think for us as a city, it's incumbent on us. Abbey was speaking to, there's a bus that gets near to her, but absolutely you don't want to walk in the dark in the evening by yourself. And so MTA WeGo now is implementing a program called WeGo Link. And so, if you've got your pass, your kind of reloadable card in certain zones, increasingly, I think we have 5 zones now, more coming. But, there's a wide kind of shed or area out from a particular stop or node, and you can take a $2 Uber to your door. And so, it's incumbent on us as a city. It's like, chicken, egg, cart, horse. We're trying to kind of elevate the transit provisions. We absolutely acknowledge that there are so many people for whom transit is not viable. And, the onus is on us to make it work so that folks really can take the bus downtown, comes frequently at 1, 2, 3 a.m. So we're talking about 24/7 parking enforcement. We need to be moving to a place where we're having 24/7 bus service,
Now, we got a tweet at This Is Nashville from user @Bugs621. Quote, "Parking has always been a point of stress in my day to day. From roadway closures to event parking, it always seems like a battle. The only relief was free road parking at night," end quote. Why is free parking going away?
There is a high cost to free parking. I think there's pretty good research over decades that free parking induces traffic. So if given an option between free parking or taking the bus or taking another alternative, folks are going to choose the free parking. But in a city that is growing and growing, there is only so much road space. There is only so much curb space. And so, again, that spatial geometry of just having to kind of solve that problem. And you can't keep widening roads. You can't keep providing more and more parking. It just induces traffic. And so, we've got to be kind of working all modes. And we're kind of in a catch-up phase on the parking.
All right, Abby, you heard the plan. What questions do you have for Councilmember Henderson?
A part of me is a little bit curious as far as working with businesses. For instance, the restaurant that I work at has been around for 10 years, and they've never had to deal with a city or anything else to be able to ensure parking. So to the point where some of my fellow employees are paying, for parking with for memberships and different parking garages. And they found that a lot of the time, because those parking garages are also available to the public, that they have trouble parking. And so I'm wondering, is there a possibility for the city to work with businesses or prominent businesses downtown to kind of create a deal or some sort of parking membership to allow those people who are coming in from farther distances or from outside of Nashville to be able to work? Is that at all possible, or?
We have a lot of work to do in a space that we call transportation demand management. It goes by the acronym of TDM. So whether with major employers, smaller employers, restaurants, maybe the association of the businesses downtown and those partnerships. And so, it striking that balance of, what does the city provide within the public right-of-way that has a lot of pressures on it, right? We need to have transit. We need loading. We need to provide that bikeway. We need to, so there's a lot of pressure there. But the employers, right, certainly the larger employers, managing their garages, free transit riding for their employees. So it's a benefit of your employment. And then as you kind of scale down, right, then to a smaller individual restaurant, that I think at a more kind of collective level, whether geographically, what association of restaurants downtown or the downtown partnership, I think there's absolutely opportunities to have those conversations and figure out, how can we support folks? And so I look forward to that. We have a new transportation demand management lead at NDOT. I think she just started a week or two ago. We've had a state grant in that space about, working with employers and how does that work. So I look forward to that work.
All right, Abby, we got just about 30 seconds. Answer this for me. What are your hopes for the future of parking and getting around town?
My hopes are that I can have one job and safe parking. So I can get to and from work safely without fearing, the darkness and, just dangerous stuff with downtown. To be able to get to my car in one piece and not have to pay an arm and a leg is really all I'm hoping for.
That is Abbey Moss, who works and parks downtown. Abbey, thank you for coming on to the show. Really appreciate it. Metro Council member Angie Henderson and Meshach Adams will stick with us through the break. When we come back, we'll explore how parking fits into plans for the city's future. Do you think we need a new parking policy? Tweet us at This Is Nashville. We'll be right back. I'm Khalil Ekolona, and this is Nashville. Before the break, we learned about some of the changes to parking in the center of the city and surrounding areas, including around-the-clock parking meters in the heart of downtown. As we just heard, this will affect workers, tourists, and locals. But is it overdue? And what does this mean for the city's broader priorities? My next guest can help to answer those questions. Diana Alarcon is the director of the Nashville Department of Transportation. Director Alarcon, thank you so much for being here. Welcome back to This Is Nashville.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Great to have you with us. So, I want to start by asking, is our parking infrastructure outdated?
Yes, it is extremely outdated. It was a surprise when I first arrived here in Nashville to see that we were using mechanical meters for our on-street parking, which actually I would say kind of went out of business, or companies or cities and government stopped using them. I want to say maybe about 2 decades ago. So yeah, we're due for a tune-up.
So how do these changes help address that?
So with the smart parking program, we're going to actually be able to have technology be one of our solutions. I mean, right now, if you park on street, you have to use coins. That's all you can use. You have no other option or way to pay. So with the new meters and the new system that we're moving to, you'll be able to use many different ways of paying. So we'll have what is referred to as a multi-space meter, where it will take a credit card or it will also take some cash. So you'll still have that option. We're not removing that from the streets. But you're also going to have the ability to scan a QR code that will pop up and allow you to enter information so you can pay that way. You'll be able to pay by text. So you'll have a number you can text and you can set yourself up an account and pay through that option, as well as there'll also be an app that you will be able to download and have on your phone, and you would be able to have the option to pay that way. So as you see on many private garages and parking lots throughout the city, we are stepping into that same technology generation, and we'll be offering the same payment solutions.
So on these kiosks, I will be able to use change because I've got a whole bunch of change in my car specifically for parking.
Yes, sir. We are not taking that option away.
Okay.
We're just giving you more payment options.
Awesome. That's good. Thank you for having my back. Now, we've been talking about new hours of enforcement. Can you tell us exactly why there will be 24/7 and where, there will be 24/7 and where it will be 6 a.m. to midnight?
So in the downtown area, if you consider looking at from Jefferson Street down through to the south end loop, probably I think this Lafayette area, all in that area. And then from, I want to say, going on the west side, the interstate to the river, that area is actually going to be 24/7. And it really fits, as the council member had mentioned earlier, with the economy. So we are pretty much in that area 24/7. So this is going to allow us to have offer better opportunities of the curb. She also shared with y'all our Connect Downtown, which is really driving a lot of how we're going to be using our curb in the future. But it's really looking about providing those spaces for the businesses so they can continue to grow and prosper. And that's really the economy. The nighttime economy is really what's kind of going to be, the parking will be supporting that nighttime economy.
Now, Councilmember Angie Henderson and Meshach Adams from Traffic and Parking Commission are still with us. Councilmember Henderson, what were the commission's top recommendations for NDOT on parking?
Well, the way it works actually is in reverse. So NDOT is coming to the commission with policy suggestions that the commission inquires about, reads about, make sure that we understand in the context of the larger strategic goals of the city. And then we are passing that at the commission, sometimes with a recommendation to council, depending on if it's a bill or if it's a kind of internal policy. So it's usually Director Alarcon, explaining things very ably and well, and staff, and that is presented to the commission on our agenda for our consideration.
Okay, Meshach, how did that process work out? Reflect on that for us real quick.
So when this came forward, NDOT gave a very good presentation about the things that were needed, the Connect Downtown study, and we it's over a section of months they've kind of rolled it out that hey, this is something we were looking at, and the agenda item we pretty much passed it. There was some contention about whether we go 24/7 or include still leave like leeway for holidays, but we as a commission decided it'd be best to go 24/7, 365 to keep it simple.
Now, you also work with Walk Bike Nashville. Mm-hmm. How will these changes affect how people travel downtown and throughout the city?
I would say it would give folks, kind of induce that demand to kind of think of different ways to get downtown. Even myself personally, like on New Year's Eve, I took the bus downtown because it was free. Mm-hmm. It was one of those things where it made more sense because it was too much parking. It wasn't enough parking. And so I would love to see opportunities for folks, especially in that nighttime economy to, like the $2 WeGo link but really just, a free bus after a certain time.
Now, NDOT will be in charge of enforcing these new rules. Diana, what will that look like?
Well, we do feel it's going to take us. So we've started rolling out the program. We've started meeting with community members because, there's many different avenues of the program. So not just the meters on the street, but we also have a residential parking permit program that goes with that. So we've started going out and meeting with the community on the residential parking permit program. We've been meeting with some of the merchants downtown as well about how we can accommodate the employees. And we have really been doing major reach out education. We are doing a presentation on February 13th to the Traffic and Parking Commission on the new meters as well as the technology, and giving them just a quick overview of what the community is going to be seeing on the street. Once we do that, which is the week after next, we will start rolling out and implementing the new meters. You will see new meters go out, the old meters come down, they'll be activated at that time, new signage will go up. We feel it's going to take us about 30 to 60 days, depending on weather, because we're working within the weather, to get all of that implemented. And then we would actually start the enforcement of 24/7 at that time. So it's kind of hard for me to pinpoint the time, but I would say the 13th, our kickoff date, and then give us 30 to 60 days, weather being part of our equation, and then we would start the enforcement. Now, I just want to add, when we start the enforcement, we're actually going to start what we are calling a soft enforcement. So it'll be with warnings, because we do not want to come out and make this punitive. We want to make it educational. We want to inform the community of what's going on. So we are going to have a period of time where it's going to be warnings are going to be provided versus citations. So it won't be punitive in the beginning.
Okay, that's good. I'm accustomed to soft enforcement. My parents did that often growing up. Now, ask me this. Answer this for me. Will NDOT be hiring additional staff to make everything possible?
So we've actually hired a third-party contractor, and through that third-party contractor, we will be hiring additional staff that will be assisting us with the citation writing.
As weather, it gets warmer, tourism is going to pick up as we get into the summer and spring and summer seasons. How many people is NDOT looking to hire?
So we're looking to add approximately 12 people through the third-party contractor that would be helping us. Keep in mind, it's not just enforcing in the downtown area. We also have some enforcement on the west end we need to do, and we also have enforcement in our residential parking permit areas. So it's really looking at all of the program, not just one particular area.
If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Lekalona. We're talking this hour about the new 24/7 parking policy for parts of downtown. You can tweet us at This Is Nashville. You know, Mishak, what can the city do to make Nashville less car dependent?
I think it's things through a lot of the things that are going to be in the Connect Downtown study that are going to reveal, how we use our curb space. So encouraging folks to ride the bus and use WeGo. And somebody like Abbey, who's working downtown, I would like to see a campaign maybe to encourage folks to ride together, group rides. But I think it's just going to take folks kind of moving differently in ways we haven't done before. But I think it's a good opportunity. I think this parking is the first step.
When can we expect the Connect Nashville plan to be ready?
Think we said the last meeting was March. So I think we should hear like the final study in March.
Okay. Now, Council Member Henderson, we're having a mayoral election in August. What do you want from our next mayor when it comes to parking and transportation infrastructure?
I think I want a mayor that is focused on building a functional network. We have been fits and starts. We've had many, many mayors in the time when we would normally in Nashville typically have one. And what that has meant going from our walk and bike strategic plan that I think there was a lot of buy-in on, a lot of understanding, building the core bikeable network, increasing transit headways and so forth. And so, kudos, I think, to WeGo and MTA within their limited funding. They have really been working their plan. I personally, as a council member serving on our Public Works, now Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, feel that we've been somewhat disjointed in our implementation of our bikeway goals. And, I love seeing WeGo implementing incremental shelter improvements, sidewalk connections. When we talk about what's going to get more, or rather fewer people driving, the bus has to come more frequently. You need to be able to walk out to the curb, and it's every 10 minutes, right? You've got your app, and, it also has to, when I take the 3B from the west side, it starts switching over to 40-minute headways, pretty soon after rush hour. And so we have to make it a more viable option for folks. And Mishak spoke to it well. When you've got, a Preds game or New Year's, give it a try.
That is Councilmember Angie Henderson. She was joined by Mishak Adams with Walk Bike Nashville and Diana Alarcon, Director of Nashville's Department of Transportation. I want to thank you all for being here today. Really appreciate it. All right, it's Friday. That means it's time for me to hop out of the studio and ride shotgun with a fellow Middle Tennessean. So we can't have a parking episode without talking to a tow truck driver, right? Today, I'm riding with Billy Jimenez with STR Towing and Recovery on the way to pick up and haul a truck in Gallatin. Buckle up.
Welcome to my office.
Yes, sir. Man, busy day today?
Very busy. When it comes to an ice storm and everything else, people are stuck in ditches. People need their cars picked up and taken to a body shop. Wintertime is the worst time, and especially that when you're out here driving.
So where are we headed to?
We actually going to pick up a GMC 1500 pickup that's going all the way to Gallatin.
Okay. How many times have you had to tow someone because they wrecked the car after they were on their phone? Or do they even admit that?
They'll never admit that. They will never admit that.
Yeah.
But you could kind of catch them in the lie. And you could kind of tell they're always going to give away their hand. You get used to it. I've been doing it for 14 years. So I could tell when somebody's coming up with a story or somebody's actually telling the truth.
Yeah.
So we go everywhere, anywhere in the 50 states. I had picked up one up the other day and went from North Carolina all the way back to Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Wow.
Yes. It don't matter whatever you're at. If you need us, we go and get it. We have accounts with a lot of people, and if their company vehicle goes down, no matter where it's at, we go and get it.
Man, you've seen a lot of the country, huh?
Oh, I have. I've been in Florida. I've been down to Alabama, New York, South Carolina, Kentucky, Chicago, Indiana, Ohio. I've been around, and sometimes, when you don't have to be in a rush, put some nice music on, relax, and just enjoy.
There you go. What do you like to listen to?
Everything from alternative, rock, a little bit of salsa.
Okay.
I just started getting into a little bit of the 50s, some of that old classic rock. You listen to certain beats like salsa. You can hear if you tone everything down. It has soul. It has feeling. It's the same with this job. That's why I like listen to different music with different ways. You get that soul feeling.
Yeah. Have you ever had a situation that was just incredibly tense?
As in?
Someone who was losing control of their emotions, or maybe trying to take out their frustrations, express their frustrations on you.
Well, it happens, especially when they get into a car accident. They get uptight, and then their emotion starts kicking in. You can't get mad at that person. Only thing you can do is trying to help them out and trying to make them calm down to understand. And it's hard, but you just can't lose your cool. You have to find a way that you can help them out so they'll calm down and relax.
Yeah. Have you always been this patient?
No. I used to repossess vehicles in Chicago, so over there it was like the Wild West.
Repo Man. Not just a job, it's an adventure.
What brought you to Nashville?
An ex-girlfriend.
Why I had a feeling as soon as you laughed like that. I knew. Yeah.
But it worked out. My wife that I'm with now.
How'd you meet your wife?
Working at Walmart.
Nice.
And we lived together, and we've been happy for about 12 years now.
12 years.
And we just got married last year.
Congratulations, my friend. That's beautiful.
That's one thing about this job is that you have to have a strong relationship. Your significant other has to understand that this job is a 24-hour job. It could put a strain on the relationship because you guys don't see each other that much. You're working a lot of hours. You're doing a lot. I have met up to 4,000 people a year in towing. I have people that stop me in the grocery store and like, hey man, remember me? And it takes me a while to figure out. But when they tell me locations and stuff, I'm like, hey, how you doing? How is everything? How's your car running? How's that going?
Yeah.
I hate the simple fact that I can't remember everybody.
4,000 people is a lot, man.
It is. And you feel bad.
I mean, look, I think I made a lot of people because I'm the host of this show, and it's always somebody new Monday through Friday.
Oh, always,
But you outclassing me by far.
So here, once we hook up a car, we pretty much put straps on the wheels so that way the car don't come off once we lift it up in the air.
Now, are they going to come out and pick up the truck?
No, I got to go and door knock.
Okay.
See where he wants me to park this vehicle. So he has sent me a picture of it. So the picture looks like he's going to plan me park it right up in his driveway.
Ooh, we're in a cul-de-sac. You got some work to do.
Oh, this is easy with a little snatch truck.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe I'll go ahead real quick.
Yes.
It's turning, but it won't start. I'm gonna go get some cookies for you and Amy.
Oh,
she
yeah.
just made them.
Oh, did she?
They're like chocolate pudding cookies. They're good. Man.
What?
Yeah, I'll get you some too.
Oh, thank you. This is the best ride ever.
That's the best thing about this job. You always, and you meet wonderful people, and sometimes I have people give me cookies, drinks, stuff. It's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. Those chocolate fudge cookies were the bomb. And I know cookies. Trust me, I know cookies. We want to thank everyone who tuned in this hour. Next week, in honor of TSU's Aristocrat of Bands Grammy nomination, we're re-airing a broadcast of our show about marching bands. This is Nashville is a production of WPLN News and Nashville Public Radio. Listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Our producers are Steve Harouche, Rose Gilbert, and Magnolia McKay. Our digital lead is Anna Gallegos-Cannon. Michaela Elias is our technical director. Our executive producer is Andrea Tudhope. The masterminds behind our theme music are Laurent Jindemir Blade. Special thanks to Cindy Abrams and Tony Gonzalez. The conversation doesn't end here. Tweet us at This Is Nashville. Find us on Instagram and tell us what you want from our show by filling out our quick survey online. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Ekalona. We'll see you next week, everybody, and be good to each other.